if you want to survive a horror movie, I mean, conventional wisdom says you should follow like a very strict set of rules.
Oh, absolutely. Don't go in the basement.
Right. You never drop your weapon. You never investigate that weird, strange noise in the dark, and you absolutely never split up.
The golden rules of the genre.
Exactly. But today, for all of you joining us on this deep dive, we're looking at a bizarre, I mean, truly chaotic piece of source material.
It really is.
It's a source that basically argues your biggest threat isn't actually the monster waiting in the dark. It's your own unresolved trauma and, like, quite possibly your bladder.
Yeah, your bladder. It is a remarkable subversion of, well, basically everything we think we know about the genre. You know?
Right.
We are essentially dissecting a survival guide that's written in the blood of its own characters.
Man, that is perfectly put. Usually when you pick up a document to study, there is an expectation of order, right?
Sure, like a curated experience.
Exactly. A curator has neatly arranged all the exhibits, and you are led down this safe, brightly lit path. But today's source material is the exact opposite of that.
It's completely unhinged.
It is. It's a raw, totally unedited, sometimes completely unhinged transcript from a horror film simply titled The Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
And reading this, it isn't like walking through a museum. I mean, it feels like deciphering a madman's diary while you're just stumbling around in a pitch black room.
You're just bumping into things.
Totally. There are missing punctuation marks, there are these strange, weird action lines, and these sudden, totally disorienting shifts in tone.
Which honestly is precisely what makes it such an invaluable text for us to analyze today.
Right.
We aren't here just to summarize, like, a scary story about some teenagers in a cabin.
No, no.
The whole mission of this deep dive is to deconstruct how this specific narrative actually weaponizes human psychology.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
We are going to look at how it utilizes real, documented historical trauma as a sort of, well, like a supernatural battery.
A supernatural battery.
Wow. And how it completely dismantles the human instinct to fight back when a person is pushed to the absolute brink.
So we're going to examine the underlying mechanics of fear. Like, how does an author, or in this case, a malicious entity, take a person's deepest insecurity and just, turn it into a literal physical threat?
It's terrifying.
It really is. So we are taking you, the listener, on a road trip right alongside these characters.
And this road trip begins with a concept that immediately sets the thematic tone for literally everything that follows.
Which is?
The inescapability of our own biology.
Okay, yes. Let's set the stage for you guys real quick. We have a van full of college students, and they're heading to this super cheap rental house out in the middle of nowhere.
As you do in these stories.
Right. And they are basically obligated to be there to finish some big research project for a really demanding professor.
Professor Williams, yeah.
So we have Mac, who's this aggressive guy in a cowboy hat who basically bullies everyone else.
He's the classic alpha jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's Quinn, who is highly anxious, incredibly smart, but he just talks a mile a minute to cover his nerves.
The four eyes archetype.
Yep. Then we have Bailey, who is quietly carrying like a massive amount of unprocessed grief.
Very heavy stuff.
And finally, there's Keith. He's this quiet, stoic outsider who definitely observes way more than he speaks.
Now, on the surface, this is the classic, totally archetypal ensemble, right?
Oh, 100%.
But the transcript immediately signals that it isn't playing by the standard rules.
Not at all.
It establishes this incredibly high level of meta-awareness right in the opening pages.
Through that conversation in the van.
Exactly. The conversation about what Quinn dubs the Hooper theory.
Yes, okay. Named after Tobe Hooper, the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
So Quinn starts rambling in the van, and he's arguing that ever since that movie came out, anytime a group of young people drives out into some remote area, disaster is triggered.
Like clockwork.
But his reasoning isn't based on, like, a curse or some supernatural magnet that pulls them in.
No, it's entirely biological.
Right. He argues that eventually, simply because they are human, someone in that van is going to have to stop to pee.
It frames the biological imperative as the literal trigger mechanism for narrative doom.
Wow. Yeah.
The characters aren't doomed because they made a foolish moral choice.
Right.
They are doomed because they possess a central nervous system and internal organs.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because I think this concept goes way beyond just being a clever meta joke.
Oh, definitely.
It reminds me a lot of how modern tech developers approach, like, app design.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
Right. When they build an interface, they rely on these things called user paths.
Okay.
They know that human impatience, our tendency to swipe a certain way, or just our baseline dopamine cravings, will predictably force us to click a specific button.
Right, they map out the biology of our attention.
Exactly. They steer you exactly where they want you to go by exploiting your inherent biology. So Quinn is basically arguing that malevolent forces, or, horror directors, are just malicious app developers.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it.
Thanks. They know human biology will force a predictable action, and that steers the characters directly into the trap.
The environment is engineered to exploit the baseline human condition.
Yes.
But what makes the Hooper theory so crucial to the text is that it introduces this heavy concept of determinism.
Right.
Quinn is laying out the exact mechanical rules of the trap they're currently driving into.
Right, which makes me really want to push back on the logic of the characters themselves here.
Okay, go for it.
I mean, I get that they have bladders.
Sure.
But if Quinn is this genre savvy, like if he literally understands the exact mechanics of how this specific trap operates, why do they still pull over?
Right, it seems contradictory.
If you know the app is designed to steal your data, you don't click accept. If you know stopping the van triggers the horror movie, why don't they just, hold it? Or turn the van around and drive back to a gas station on the main highway?
Well, because in this type of narrative architecture, self-awareness is never a shield,
No.
No, it is a spotlight.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't say the characters. Instead, it highlights the absolute inevitability of their situation.
Oh, that's so bleak.
It is. By having Quinn articulate the Hooper theory, the narrative is telling the audience, yes, we know the rules, but the rules are inescapable.
So you're saying knowledge doesn't equate to agency?
Precisely. Knowing you're walking into a trap doesn't matter if you're being pushed from behind by biology and pulled from the front by narrative necessity.
Man.
It's a very nihilistic view of human agency.
Yeah, it really is.
You can be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
You can map out exactly how the predator hunts. But if you are dying of thirst and the predator is guarding the only watering hole,
your intelligence won't save you.
Exactly. You still have to drink. The trap will close.
The trap will close. And the physical manifestation of that trap is the rental house itself, which is guarded by a man named Soya.
Ah, the landlord.
Yes.
And his introduction fundamentally shifts the tone from this clever meta-commentary into this grounded, deeply abrasive reality.
Yeah, so they arrive at this absolute dump of a house.
A real fixer-upper.
Right. The lock is jammed, the place looks totally abandoned, and suddenly this deeply eccentric, super angry older man just appears out of nowhere. Soya. And he immediately starts yelling at them, just complaining about his dead wife, who he claims left him this worthless property.
He's incredibly hostile right from the jump.
So hostile.
He establishes a baseline of death and decay right at the threshold of the property. But he doesn't do it with, spooky lighting or ominous music.
No.
He does it with mundane irritation.
And that leads to the strangest conflict in the script so far.
The negotiation.
Yes. They are standing on the porch of what is clearly a horror movie nightmare house, right? And instead of a sense of impending cosmic doom, they get into a petty financial negotiation.
Over $50.
Right. Soya demands $50 from them as a quote-unquote life insurance deposit.
And listen to how specific his warnings are. It's so weird.
Oh, I know.
He tells them he needs the money in case they step on a rusty nail sticking out of the floorboards.
Or if a faulty light switch electrocutes one of them.
Exactly. He even references an ominous former tenant or contractor named Mislo, the Irish bloke.
As if these college kids should have any idea who that is.
Right.
I am so fascinated by this dynamic because these kids, they actually haggle with him.
It's hilarious.
They literally negotiate this hostile landlord down to a $20 upfront deposit, which leaves a running total of $70 that they owe him for the weekend.
The infamous $70.
Yes. And the $70 debt becomes a bizarre fixation for the characters.
It really does.
Mac even suggests they should start printing counterfeit bills to pay the guy off, like they're in that movie To Live and Die in LA.
Just to avoid paying $70.
Right. So why on earth would the script spend so much time on a $70 deposit when there are literal demons waiting in the wings?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the script uses financial anxiety as an insulator against existential dread.
An insulator.
Yeah, and we do this in real life all the time.
Okay, how so?
The human brain struggles to comprehend massive, formless threats, right? Like death, or cosmic insignificance, or ancient evil.
Sure, it's too big to process.
Exactly. But the brain perfectly understands the immediate, visceral stress of being short on rent.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
By focusing on the $70, the characters are anchoring themselves to the world they understand.
So the mundane details act as, like, a psychological life raft for them.
Exactly. And from a storytelling perspective, it is a brilliant manipulation of you, the listener.
It really is.
It lowers your guard. Because if the landlord had warned them about bleeding walls and ghostly apparitions...
The audience would immediately tense up.
Right. But by having Soya warn them about rusty nails and faulty wiring, the script lulls you into a grounded, almost sitcom-like reality.
It really does feel like a weird sitcom for a minute.
It establishes a false sense of security right before it introduces the true catalyst.
The forbidden space.
Yes. The oldest trick in the storytelling playbook.
So classic.
Soya tells them in no uncertain terms that they are absolutely forbidden from going into the attic.
Right.
He claims that's where he keeps his personal belongings, and he just doesn't want them touching his things.
The moment he said that in the transcript, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Oh, of course.
I mean, if you tell a group of college kids not to go into the attic, you haven't given them a boundary. You've basically given them a VIP pass to the attic.
It is the psychology of the forbidden door.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere, in mythology and folklore. Like in Bluebeard's castle, where the bride is given the keys to every room, but is told never to open the one in the basement.
Or Pandora's box.
Exactly. Or the tree of knowledge. Human beings possess an inherent, almost fatalistic curiosity.
We just can't help ourselves.
No, we can't. When you create a restriction, you don't eliminate desire, you manufacture it.
You manufacture it. Wow!
If Soya had said nothing, they probably would have ignored the attic completely.
It's just a dusty attic.
Right. But by forbidding it, he guarantees they will breach it.
But what's crazy is that the script doesn't just rush them up the stairs to break the rule right away.
Now it takes its time.
This is where the raw transcript really surprised me. It pumps the brakes on the horror plot entirely just to spend a significant amount of time sitting in the living room with these characters, exploring their interpersonal dynamics and their individual traumas.
Which is structurally vital for what's about to happen.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You cannot effectively tear a character down until you have built the emotional scaffolding of who they are.
Okay, that makes sense. And we see this first with Quinn and Bailey. So Quinn realizes he was acting totally erratic in the van, and he actually tries to offer a genuine apology to her.
Which is hard for him.
Very hard. He confesses to Bailey that his rambling is a symptom of severe social anxiety.
He's very self-aware in that moment.
Yeah, he admits he doesn't know how to act around people, so he just talks to fill the silence.
Yeah.
And he tries to extend an olive branch by bonding over a shared interest in Spider-Man comics.
It's a moment of profound vulnerability.
Yeah.
He is basically taking off his armor, acknowledging his flaw,
Yeah.
and asking for a simple moment of connection.
But Bailey completely shuts him down.
Brutally.
She mocks him, she accuses him of hitting on her, and dismissively just calls him Four Eyes.
Yeah.
She actively punishes him for being vulnerable, and then this transitions right into Mac holding court in the center of the room.
Ah, Mac.
Mac, the cowboy hat-wearing bully, is telling a story from his freshman year that is honestly deeply humiliating.
The hazing story with the physical education teacher.
Right. Mac describes being hung by his underwear on a coat rack by these older students.
Awful.
And how this teacher, Mr. Nichols, had to literally cut him down with scissors.
It is an objectively degrading memory.
Completely. Yet Mac is telling it loudly, he's laughing, he's performing it for the group almost as a badge of honor.
Because if he tells a story, he controls the narrative.
Oh.
The classic defense mechanism.
Wait.
If you are the one laughing at your own degradation, you strip others of the power to use it against you.
That makes total sense.
He's preemptively defending himself.
But that defense crumbles the exact second Keith speaks up.
Keith is the wild card.
He really is. Keith, who has been almost entirely silent up to this point, just challenges Mac's aggressive posturing.
He sees right through it.
He does. And Mac tries to brush him off, mocking him, calling him a grumpy baby.
Deflecting.
But Keith zeroes in on the absolute core of Mac's psychological armor. He asks Mac, point blank, what happened to his father?
And this is where the entire dynamic of the group just fractures and reforms.
Because Keith doesn't just ask, he twists the knife.
Yeah, he does.
He asks if Mac's dad went out for milk and never came back, implying abandonment.
Which is a low blow.
It's a huge blow, and that implication shatters Mac's tough guy persona completely.
He drops the act.
Mac reveals that his father didn't abandon him. His father was a soldier who died in a Vietnam War ambush in 1973.
The script provides these hauntingly specific details, too.
It really does.
Max says, "I still remember the telegram and the two men in uniform who came to my home so close to Christmas."
Just brutal. He says this is all he left me. He is talking about a void, an absolute absence of closure.
Yeah.
Which raises a really complex question for you guys listening to this right now.
It's a tough one.
When you find out a bully has a deeply tragic, traumatizing backstory, how does that shift your perception of them?
Right.
Does hearing about those two men in uniform showing up at Christmas excuse the fact that Mac is aggressively cruel to Quinn and the others? Or does it merely explain the mechanics of his cruelty?
Well, psychologically speaking, it is entirely about mechanics, not absolution.
Okay, unpack that.
Understanding the trauma doesn't excuse the toxic behavior.
Yeah.
It just contextualizes the emotional architecture.
I like that phrase, emotional architecture.
Thanks. Mac bullies people because he is fundamentally terrified of returning to that state of ultimate vulnerability.
Right.
He never wants to be that little boy receiving a telegram that destroyed his entire reality ever again.
So he strikes first.
Exactly. By ensuring he is always the aggressor, he guarantees he will never again be the victim.
So he projects his own fear of weakness onto people like Quinn.
Precisely. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the horror genre, this specific sequence is doing something much more insidious than standard character development.
Okay, how so?
In this script, unhealed trauma isn't just background flavor to make the characters sympathetic to the audience.
Right.
It is a vital mechanical component of the supernatural threat they are about to face.
Wait, I want to make sure I'm following you here. Are you saying the trauma is what actually summons the monster? Because if that's the case, why do they need to go into the attic at all? Why doesn't the entity just attack them the moment they walk through the front door?
That is an excellent distinction.
Okay.
No, the trauma doesn't summon the entity. The entity requires a physical anchor, which we will definitely get to in a moment.
Right, the book.
Right. But think of the entity as a radio broadcaster, transmitting a signal of immense destructive power.
Okay.
That signal is completely useless unless there is a receiver tuned to the exact right frequency.
And the trauma is the frequency.
Exactly. The human mind, when it's healthy and secure, acts as a sort of static interference against psychological attacks.
It's like a firewall.
Exactly like a firewall. But unprocessed grief, deep-seated insecurity, the brittle defensive walls we build, these act as highly tuned receivers.
Wow.
The physical house they're in is just wood and drywall. It has no inherent power. The true haunting takes place within the unhealed architecture of their minds. They are broadcasting their pain, and the entity uses that exact frequency to infiltrate their reality.
Which perfectly explains why Soya's warning about the attic was the fatal catalyst.
Yes.
The entity is sitting up there just waiting for a receiver, and inevitably, they break the rule.
As they always do.
They go into the forbidden space, and the narrative instantly shifts from this, grounded psychological drama into expansive cosmic horror.
All because of what they find hidden among the mundane artifacts of Soya's life.
Right. They realize that Soya, the cranky guy who was so worried about his $70, is actually a veteran of World War II.
Which is a huge reveal.
Huge. They find his old Marine gear, but tucked away, completely out of place among the tools and military surplus, is a book.
The book.
And Quinn, our resident brainiac, instantly recognizes it. The text explicitly identifies it as the Book of the Dead.
And the lore drop that Quinn delivers here in the script is massive.
It's like 3 pages long.
It fundamentally recontextualizes the entire scope of the threat.
It really is staggering. Let's trace the timeline Quinn lays out for us because it weaves this fictional artifact so deeply into real-world history.
Okay, let's do it.
First, Quinn establishes that this isn't just a prop from some H.P. Lovecraft story.
Right.
He claims Lovecraft didn't invent the book. He merely stumbled upon its mythology and exploited it for fiction.
He's just a scribe.
Right, acting as a scribe for a very real, very ancient evil.
Framing the real-world author as a mere witness to actual occult history is such a brilliant way to blur the lines between reality and fiction for the audience.
It's so smart. Then Quinn traces the book's path through history. He says it was guarded by a secret order, the Templars, during the Crusades.
Classic occult lore.
Yep. Then it vanishes for hundreds of years, resurfacing in the 1920s when a historian discovers it, only to leave it during a catastrophic shipwreck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Note the geography there, by the way. The Pacific Ocean.
Yes, very important, because the next historical touchstone Quinn mentions is Adolf Hitler.
Right.
He explicitly states that Hitler tried everything in his power to locate this book and failed. The ultimate evil of the 20th century was searching for this specific artifact and couldn't find it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially if we look at the actual history of World War II.
Okay, tell me.
The script uses Hitler's search as a quick plot point, but it's grounded in terrifying historical fact.
Really?
Yes. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, actually created an organization called the Anabi.
The Ananir.
Yes. Its explicit purpose was to scour the globe for occult artifacts, ancient texts, and mythical weapons to give the Third Reich a supernatural advantage.
You're kidding? Like Indiana Jones stuff?
Exactly like that, but in real life,
Yeah.
they genuinely believed in this esoteric power.
Wow.
So, by weaving the Book of the Dead into that real-world Nazi obsession, the script grants the fictional book an immense, horrifying credibility.
Because if the architects of the Holocaust were desperate to find this thing,
Its power must be absolutely unfathomable.
that context makes it so much darker.
Yeah.
So, Hitler's occult division fails to find it. Where does it actually turn up?
Of all places.
It turns up in the hands of Soya, just a random United States Marine fighting in the Pacific theater.
Right.
Soya finds it sitting among discarded M1 bullets on some blood-soaked island.
The juxtaposition there is amazing. Ancient cosmic evil sitting next to mass-produced 20th century munitions.
Right. Mac even points out how ridiculous the coincidence is.
He calls it out.
He's like, out of the entire globe, this ancient manuscript just happens to wash up on an island during the bloodiest conflict in human history, right at the feet of their cranky landlord.
But the absurdity is the point.
How so?
Evil isn't always orchestrated, sometimes it is purely opportunistic.
Ah.
The Pacific Theater was a place of unimaginable, mechanized slaughter. It was a liminal space where the rules of civilization had completely broken down.
I see what you mean. So the book isn't causing the historical events, it's attracted to them. The Crusades, the aftermath of World War I in the 1920s, the rise of the Third Reich, the slaughter of the Pacific Theater.
It seeks out the blood.
It's like a parasite that thrives in the open wounds of human history. It migrates to wherever human atrocity is at its absolute peak, like a twisted, evil Forrest Gump.
That is a very weird but very accurate analogy.
Yeah.
And look at how the script connects this grand historical thesis to the intimate traumas of our characters in that living room.
Right.
We have two massive anchors to global conflict sitting in that house. We have the physical book, brought back from the atrocities of World War II by Soya.
Okay.
And we have Mac, the orphan son of a soldier killed in the jungles of Vietnam in 1973.
So the trauma is generational.
Yes.
Soya bringing the book home from the Pacific is basically a metaphor for a soldier bringing the invisible horrors of war back into a domestic civilian space.
Yes.
He literally locked the trauma in his attic.
The script is arguing that violence doesn't stay on the battlefield, it echoes.
It echoes.
The supernatural threat is heavy because it is built on a foundation of real, visceral, global grief.
And the moment that grief is touched, the horror is unleashed.
Immediately.
Bailey, who we know is struggling with the loss of her father, is the one who physically opens the book.
She breaks the seal.
And the reaction is instantaneous, but it is not a jump scare. It is a surgically precise psychological strike.
The radio receiver locks onto the frequency.
Yes. She is immediately plunged into this vivid hallucination. She hears her dead father calling out to her from a jungle.
It's heartbreaking.
He is crying, telling her that his unit is dead, that he is freezing, and that he can no longer feel his legs.
Yeah.
He is begging his daughter for help she cannot possibly give. It is pure, agonizing psychological warfare.
The entity doesn't manifest with claws or teeth here.
No.
It manifests as unresolved guilt.
And it doesn't stop with Bailey. The entity, which the text implies is ancient and demonic, essentially takes control of the room's atmosphere.
It dominates the space.
Completely. And what follows is one of the most brutal villain monologues I have ever read in a script.
It's devastating.
The entity systematically profiles each character, basically breaking them down by weaponizing their core insecurities against them.
It operates as a highly toxic, omniscient therapist.
That's exactly it. Let's break down mechanics of this attack, because it is fascinating how it isolates each of them.
Okay, let's go through it.
It starts with Bailey again. It mocks her, calling her a bag of flesh that hasn't been able to move on with its pitiful life.
Harsh.
Very. It tells her that her outward confidence is entirely fake, that it's just a brittle mask she wears to hide the fact that she keeps dreaming of her dead daddy in the jungle.
Yeah.
It tells her she has never, quote-unquote, metabolized the loss.
That specific word, metabolized, is clinically devastating.
Why that word specifically?
It implies that the grief isn't just a memory, right? It is a foreign substance she swallowed that she cannot digest.
Oh, wow.
It is sitting in her system, slowly poisoning her from the inside out.
That is so dark. Then the entity pivots to Quinn.
Poor Quinn.
It acknowledges his strengths first, calling him handsome, intelligent, first in everything. But then it just twists the knife.
It sets him up to knock him down.
Exactly. It asks him, why do you try so hard? And it answers its own question. Because at home, you are an eternal second.
Ouch.
It tells Quinn that his parents only have eyes for his older brother, the true pride of the family, and that Quinn is just a carbon copy, desperately performing for validation he will never, ever receive.
This instantly recontextualizes Quinn's entire personality for the audience.
Right.
His endless talking, his need to show off his knowledge about the Hooper theory or historical artifacts.
It isn't arrogance.
No, it is a desperate, ingrained defense mechanism. He talks so people will look at him, because when he is quiet, he is invisible to the people who matter most.
Yeah.
The entity strips away his intellectual armor by exposing the desperate child underneath.
And then it addresses Mac.
Here we go.
Now, we just learned about the traumatic loss of Mac's father in Vietnam. We understand the source of his pain.
Right, the telegram at Christmas.
But the entity offers absolutely zero sympathy.
None.
It calls him an attention-seeking idiot. It tells him that everyone who pretends to be his friend actually despises him, viewing him as just a first-rate jerk.
He goes right for the ego.
It specifically mocks his fragile ego and calls out his cowboy hat as a pathetic prop used for overcompensation.
It hates the hat.
It tells him, point blank, that he has no certainties in life and that he is fundamentally, irreversibly alone.
And this raises an important question about the nature of horror, I think. Yeah. Why is this monologue so much more terrifying than a monster casing them with an axe?
Because it's true.
Because the entity is weaponizing the truth.
Yeah.
It is taking the private, internal, negative self-talk that we all struggle to suppress and broadcasting it through an external demonic voice.
That is so true.
You can outrun an axe. You cannot outrun your own self-loathing.
It is absolute emotional devastation. But then, the entity does something completely unexpected when it addresses Keith.
This part is fascinating,
It doesn't mock him, it actually praises him.
which is the most insidious tactic of all.
It tells Keith that it respects him. It says Keith has never betrayed his true nature or lowered himself to mingle with the disgusting rabble around him.
Yeah.
It identifies Keith as an outsider, but also as a natural, stoic leader. But it's not giving him a compliment, is it?
No, it's issuing a draft notice.
Right. The entity tells Keith that he has been chosen to become an officer in its undead army.
For the others, the entity weaponizes their weaknesses. For Keith, it weaponizes his strength.
Wow.
By praising him, it instantly isolates him from the rest of the group.
It makes him the other.
Exactly. It attempts to break their cohesion by elevating Keith above them, preparing to use his inherent leadership qualities against humanity.
It completely dismantles them. I mean, they are stripped bare, their darkest secrets and insecurities just aired out in front of each other.
They're at rock bottom.
And just as they are reeling from this psychological barrage, the entity drops a terrifying piece of logistical reality.
Right.
It tells them that a psychological attack is just the beginning. It announces that an old friend is coming to do some spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning. What a deeply domestic, sterile euphemism for a massacre.
Right. The entity makes it clear that a physical demonic assassin is currently en route to the house to wipe them out. Simple, clean jobs, it says.
Yeah.
The physical manifestation of this ancient evil is coming right here, right now, to close the trap.
This is the moment of maximum despair in the narrative.
It really is.
The story has cornered them geographically, biologically, and
They
psychologically.
have nowhere to go.
In a standard horror script, this is the exact moment the ensemble fractures. They should panic, turn on each other, scramble for the van keys, and get picked off one by one in the dark.
Exactly. This is where the slasher tropes demand they run out the front door and trip over a tree root. But this is where the raw transcript completely subverts expectations. It executes this massive whiplash-inducing tonal shift that I just did not see coming.
The birth of what they call Team Crazy.
Yes, I love this part. Instead of cowering in shame after all their secrets are exposed, instead of letting the demon's truth destroy them, they experience this incredible collective epiphany.
They rally.
Quinn, the anxious nerd who just found out his parents' neglect is obvious to everyone, steps up.
He takes charge.
He acknowledges everything the demon just said. He says, yes, we are losers. Yes, we are eternal seconds. Yes, we are jerks carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. He completely owns it.
He accepts the trauma rather than attempting to hide it. This is a profound psychological pivot for the characters.
He tells the group that tonight they have a chance to prove they're worth so much more than their damage. He says, for the first time, we're going to stand on the summit and enjoy the view.
Such a great line.
Faced with an ancient cosmic assassin, they don't fracture. They form a squad and decide to hunt the monster.
It is an incredibly empowering subversion of victimhood.
It really is.
The horror genre often relies on the characters remaining passive prey until the very final act, when a single final girl fights back.
Right. Usually it's just one survivor.
Here, the entire ensemble collectively rejects their status as prey.
Yeah.
By accepting the entity's insults, by agreeing that they are flawed, damaged, broken people, they rob the entity of its psychological leverage.
Oh, that makes sense.
You cannot blackmail someone who is no longer ashamed of their secrets.
But hold on, how does that actually work mechanically? I mean, just because they aren't sad anymore doesn't mean a physical demon can't tear them apart.
True, it doesn't give them physical invulnerability.
Yeah.
But remember the radio frequency metaphor we talked about?
Right, the receiver.
The entity was tuned into their shame, their denial, their unmetabolized grief.
Okay.
By acknowledging their flaws out loud, by accepting themselves, they effectively change the frequency. They sever the entity's psychological tether, forcing it to fight them in the physical realm, where they at least have a fighting chance.
I see. So they leveled the playing field.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful moment of solidarity. Mac, the bully, actually apologizes to Quinn. He admits he deserves everything he gets for being cruel, but says he's grown fond of them. He calls them his family.
That's very sweet.
And then they immediately lock down the house. They barricade the doors. They execute this tactical defense plan.
They get organized.
Quinn takes the living room. Keith acts as the samurai guarding the hallway. Mac takes the high ground on the second floor. And Bailey covers the first. They prepare for war.
They transition from prey to predators. But of course, the script does not let them off easy.
Not at all.
The transition is brutal, and the climax of this narrative is an incredibly chaotic, bloody struggle.
The transcript itself actually becomes really frantic here.
Hard to read, almost.
Yeah, it's a flurry of staccato action lines, shouting, and confusion. And in the middle of this physical chaos, the entity launches one final, devastating psychological strike against Bailey.
It pushes this psychological horror to its absolute limit.
The hallucination of her father returns, but this time, he isn't crying for help.
It changes tactics.
He tells Bailey that when he was in the jungle in Vietnam, all he did was think about her and her mother. But then the entity twists the memory into something totally grotesque.
So mean.
Her father tells her that he realized she and her mother were his undoing. He calls them filthy opportunist bitches.
Yeah.
He says he only enlisted to guarantee them a roof over their heads. And then he explicitly states that if the price of his own life was not giving birth to her, he would take that deal in a heartbeat.
Awful.
He tells her that he died because of her.
It is the ultimate nightmare of the survivor. Survivor's guilt is a powerful force, but this hallucination weaponizes it perfectly.
It really does.
The entity is not just trying to break Bailey's mind. It is trying to retroactively destroy the love she holds for her father.
Let's dig into that for a second. Why would the entity care about her love for her father?
Because love and positive memory act as a grounding force against existential despair.
Okay.
If the entity can convince Bailey that her father fundamentally hated her, it destroys her foundational sense of self.
Right.
It isolates her in time and space. If her past is a lie, she has nothing to fight for in the present. It's a calculated spiritual assassination designed to make her drop her weapon and surrender.
But she doesn't.
She doesn't.
She fights back. She realizes it's a manipulation, shouting, "It's not you, it can't be you," and she declares she will show the entity who the real monster is.
She wins her battle.
She secures her area. But while Bailey wins her psychological war, Mac is fighting a physical one upstairs, and he loses.
Yeah, the transcript gets murky here, which is typical of a raw, unedited script, but the implication is undeniable. Mac's defensive position is overrun.
Keith runs upstairs and finds him. Someone heavily implied to be the demonic presence speaking through Mac's body taunts Keith.
Yeah.
A gunshot rings out, and Keith plainly states, "Mac was already dead before I pulled the trigger."
Good gut punch.
They lose their strongest physical fighter, the guy who just found redemption, and the demonic presence is now fully manifested inside the house. Barricades don't matter anymore.
They realize that conventional tactics, locking doors, holding choke points, are entirely useless against an ancient supernatural threat.
They need a new plan.
They need a supernatural solution.
And in a moment of sheer desperation, they turn back to the very object that triggered the nightmare, the Book of the Dead.
Full circle.
They realize there has to be a formula, a rite, some kind of instruction manual hidden within the text on how to fight back. Keith starts frantically tearing through the pages.
And he finds something.
He finds something incredible hidden inside.
The blood note.
Yes. He finds a note tucked between the pages written entirely in blood. And the most crucial detail, it is written in English.
Which is an immensely significant narrative choice.
Why?
The book itself is ancient, likely written in Sumerian or Latin or some forgotten tongue, but an English note written in blood implies a lineage of survival.
You're thinking Soya wrote it.
It was likely Soya, or perhaps another Allied soldier in the Pacific, who encountered the entity, figured out a countermeasure, and left desperate instructions behind for the next unfortunate soul who opened the book.
Wow.
It represents an unbroken chain of human resistance against cosmic odds. It is history providing a lifeline to the present.
That is so cool. Well, they don't have time to analyze the handwriting. The entity is bearing down on them.
You have seconds.
They use the text on this blood note to perform an improvised frantic ritual. They decide to baptize a weapon.
Yeah.
The transcript isn't explicitly clear if it's a firearm or a heavy melee weapon, but they perform this desperate baptism right as the monster breaches the room.
Think about the symbolism of that action.
Okay.
A baptism usually signifies a cleansing, a rebirth into a faith, a dedication to peace. Here, they are baptizing a tool of extreme violence to fight a holy war against an unholy terror. They are consecrating their own capacity for destruction.
And they name the weapon. Amidst all this terror, they dub this newly holy, blood-baptized instrument of destruction Lucy.
Lucy.
And they literally beat the supernatural entity into submission with it. It is fast, it is frantic, and it is a pure, adrenaline-fueled climax.
Well,
They don't defeat the ancient evil by chanting a complex spell in a circle. They beat it by weaponizing their defiance.
they survive the night. They neutralize the immediate physical threat.
Yeah.
But the script, true to its cynical roots, refuses to give them a clean, easy resolution.
Oh, not at all. Because right before the entity is completely destroyed, it delivers one final chilling message.
It has to have the last word.
It congratulates them on winning the skirmish, but then it asks, do you really think it's over?
Yeah.
It reveals that there are thousands more just like it, hidden in the darkness of the world, waiting to strike. It tells them they won a single battle, but the war has only just begun.
The scope of the horror expands infinitely in that moment. They haven't closed the forbidden door, they have simply stepped through it into a much larger, much darker universe.
And the surviving kids, Quinn, Bailey, and Keith, they do not shrink from this revelation.
Not at all.
They vow to honor Mac's sacrifice. They look at Lucy, their baptized weapon, and they decide to hunt down the rest of them.
They commit.
They commit to building their own monster hunting squad. They are going to take the fight directly to the darkness.
It's an amazing pivot.
The transcript sets up this epic, world-saving, heroic tone. You can practically hear the triumphant rock music swelling in the background, signaling the birth of these new heroes.
They have fully transcended their original limiting archetypes. They are no longer the anxious nerd, the traumatized girl, or the quiet loner.
No.
They are soldiers enlisted in a cosmic war.
And then, the front door opens.
The ultimate punchline.
It is genuinely brilliant comedic timing. The triumphant music basically cuts out.
Record scratch.
Exactly. Sawyer walks in, looks at these blood-soaked, traumatized college kids, holding a baptized weapon named Lucy, standing over the remains of an ancient demonic assassin. And what does he say?
He says, "You little bastards, where do you think you're going? You still owe me $70.
You still owe me $70.
The mundane comes crashing right back down on the cosmic.
So what does this all mean for us? We went from Quinn's biological Hooper theory in the van to fighting ancient demons with a blood-soaked manual from World War II, and we end right back on a $70 debt.
It's a journey.
I love it because it is so profoundly, frustratingly human. You can literally stare into the abyss. You can defeat ancient psychological evil that preys on your deepest generational traumas. But at the end of the day,
Rent is still due.
rent is still due. The world keeps spinning. The banal, everyday annoyances of life do not care if you just save the universe.
It perfectly encapsulates the dual nature of our existence. We carry these massive, heavy, almost mythological burdens, grief, trauma, our own internal demons, but we still have to wake up, go to work, pay our bills, and deal with cranky landlords.
It's true.
The script is arguing that surviving the grand existential horrors doesn't excuse you from the mundane ones, but perhaps surviving the big things makes the small things a little more bearable.
What an incredible journey through a truly chaotic text.
It's been wild.
We started with what looked like a broken, cliche script of a road trip movie, and we ended up unraveling a profound story about how historical atrocities echo into the present, how our own minds can be weaponized against us, and how acknowledging our brokenness is the first step to fighting back.
Exactly.
The Book of the Dead didn't just summon monsters, it acted as a mirror, forcing these characters to look at their ugliest reflections. And instead of shattering, they chose to strike back.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, today. We've spent this time analyzing how these characters survived because they finally accepted their traumas.
They owned it.
They took their insecurities, their status as losers or eternal seconds, and turned them into armor, changing the frequency so the darkness couldn't tune in.
It's a powerful lesson.
We live in a world that often feels like an overwhelming tide of anxiety and information overload, where it is incredibly easy to feel like our own minds are working against us.
Very easy.
So I want you to mull this over. Are you letting your own internal demons, your imposter syndrome, your unmetabolized grief, your fear of failure, are you letting them use your insecurities against you?
It's a great question.
Or are you willing to look into the dark spaces, read the fine print of your own history, find your own Lucy, and fight back?
Because if a group of broke college students can figure out how to navigate the cosmic darkness while still owing $70, there's absolutely hope for the rest of us.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the madness and the meaning of this incredible source material. Keep questioning the narratives around you. Don't be afraid to look in the attic, and we will see you next time.